This week on The Record, seized in Staunton. The owner of a popular small-town restaurant taken into an unmarked car moments after dropping his girls off at school. Pritzker pushes back why ICE raids in Illinois are no longer contained in Chicago. Hunger in the headlines. Governors of Illinois and Missouri fork over funding to keep people in poverty fed during a government shutdown. He's running. The 5-term incumbent running St. Charles County says he's running for re-election again. How Steve Ellman explains his retirement reversal. Before it was a national treasure, it was a local controversy. We check the record on how St. Louis turned a crooked vote into a world wonder. It's all coming up right now. Welcome to The Record. I'm Mark Maxwell. We begin in Macoupin County, where hundreds of people are planning a mass protest this weekend. The owner of a popular new restaurant in Staunton, Illinois, was seized and detained in an unmarked vehicle. His name is Ismael Ayuso Sandoval. Our newsroom is working now to learn more about his immigration status. We have not yet found any court documents that might suggest a criminal record. The sudden detention of a father and business owner raises questions about the Department of Homeland Security's mission statement, claiming they aim to arrest the, quote, worst of the worst. This was DHS Secretary Kristi Noem back in July.
We have focused overwhelmingly day after day after day on bringing in the worst of the worst and getting them off of our streets. Those are the murderers, the rapists, the pedophiles.
But open their books and look at their numbers. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is overwhelmingly seizing and arresting people without criminal convictions. According to ICE data analyzed by NBC Chicago's investigative unit, 84% of ICE detainees arrested in the last year have a clean record.
Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and Kristi Noem have said they want to target the worst of the worst. They have not done that. Far from it. They have targeted families and children, burrito vendors, landscapers, delivery drivers, nannies, U.S. citizens, legal residents, and longtime Chicagoans, people who have never broken the law.
Those facts and figures are no longer confined to the big city of Chicago. In small-town Staunton, one father routinely walks his girls to school in the morning, and on Wednesday morning, ICE agents took Ismael Ayuso Sandoval into custody near that elementary school in Staunton. We've now learned he's being held at the St. Genevieve County Detention Center. Family members say Sandoval was not told why he was being arrested. Community members are planning a mass demonstration this weekend.
It's gotten to the point where it's affected me personally, and I think that's one of the biggest issues in this country is people, they don't care until it hurts them.
Illinois Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski represents that area. She condemned this arrest online. She said, "This is unacceptable. Myself and Senator Durbin are working urgently to obtain information about his status and to ensure he is released and reunited with his family immediately." We turn now for more of that information to 5 on Your Side. Justina Coronel joining us on The Record with what she learned just back from Staunton. Good to have you, Justina.
Thank you so much for having me.
What can you tell us more about who this man is, how long he's been here, where he's worked?
Absolutely. So we know from family he's been in this country for 20 years. He worked at, moving to Staunton, he worked at another restaurant. And I believe from there met a ton of people. They say like the energy, he's so kind and loving. And from there in the last year, he opened up his own restaurant, Caldera. And then from there kind of continue having that base. But people say it's not just like a restaurant owner or they feel like a customer. He makes you feel like family. So one woman said she's known him for years and celebrates her birthday there every year, every anniversary, because he feels like family. They say that even if you're at the restaurant and you have a baby, you're holding a baby, he will literally come to your table, hold the baby for you so you can eat. Another neighbor told me that when it gets cold, he'll be the first one to help and be like, hey, I'll shovel the snow for you. And I think those are like little acts have built like this last 20 years for him to be, someone called him a pillar in the community. He means a lot to them. A great dad, really close to his girls. They're 7 and 8, which will kind of what happened all yesterday was that he was, I was told that from the superintendent that he takes his little girls to school every day. He brings them in. But yesterday what was different was that when he left, I heard it was a few blocks away that an unmarked car pulled up. And that proximity is important about how close it was. You talked about the local school district. I think you talked to school officials there too. We know that in Washington, D.C. right now, there's a bipartisan group of senators led by Tammy Duckworth who are pressuring ICE to back off of enforcement actions within 1,000 feet of schools. Do you know anything more about how close? Are we talking about within eyeshot of this? And how are those school officials responding? So I don't know again, how like close it was. All I know that the superintendent confirmed it did not happen on the school property or right in front of it. But I've been told by multiple people that it's been several blocks. Now, how many feet? I don't know. But to the point where parents are dropping and picking, or dropping off their kids and leaving, multiple moms saw this happen, and it caused ripple effects. So the kids know, like this whole area knows because multiple people saw it, and so it caused hysteria.
What explanation, if any, I mentioned at the start of this that we've been looking for any court record that would indicate a past criminal conviction or a record. We have not yet found any of those. Is ICE or is DHS giving you any indication about why they picked him up?
No indication. I have reached out to ICE. Now, I was telling you before, I've reached out to ICE, like, media communications before. Sometimes I'll hear back, sometimes not. But this case, I have not heard back any indication on why Sandoval was detained. I have, just before I got on set, I actually reached out, Jacob Kurth, he's an incredible, extraordinaire a teammate of ours, dug a little bit more, tried to find anything. The only thing was like maybe traffic citations. The farthest one was 2017 and then maybe in 2014, but nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, a simple traffic citation.
And as we continue to learn more about his immigration status, we understand that you mentioned he might have come here some 20 years ago, roughly, and we know he's about 40 years old.
Yes.
Somewhere in there. So that gives us some picture of when he came into this country. A lot, of course, has changed over the years and how the country enforces and sees the immigration picture. How has this incident changed the way immigrant families in Staunton might be behaving from day to day, whether it's keeping kids home, closing their businesses, avoiding public spaces? I think the restaurant itself had to go down for a bit, and now they're back open.
The restaurant was closed yesterday. I think they were trying to figure out what to do, but it is back open today. And a lot of it's like family run, or like a lot of in Latino cultures, like we are cousins, but you're family, right? I mean, or we could be family friends, but you're my cousin, you're my primo. So so it's a very tight knit, it looks like family run business. But of course, his family's scared.
Yeah, how are they handling all this?
I asked that, and I don't even know if that's the right question when I asked it, because how can you respond to that, And so he said, I guess the best they can be, but his little girls are scared, his wife is scared, they're worried, and the brother, I spoke to Sandoval's brother actually today, and said that he spoke to Sandoval, and he said he's incredibly worried about not only obviously his girls, but the restaurant, and like, what does this mean? It's a lot of unknowns. And I did ask them, like, did they give you any response to Sandoval's family, any response of why there was an arrest? And they said that they didn't get any explanation.
We do know that Donald Trump ran on a platform of mass deportation. Macoupin County voted for him in heavy margins, 69-30 over Kamala Harris. What are you seeing in terms of political reaction from the community? What are the next couple days going to look like there?
So interestingly enough, even without me being like anything sort of political question, they brought it forward and be like, it doesn't matter if I'm left or right or what I believe in and that sort of thing. Like I want people to see the humanity of this. This guy's a huge pillar in our community. We love him, and we want people to see the humanity of all this. So that was brought up before I even asked that question. And once I did, someone said, I don't care where he came from. He is one of us. And that was really powerful.
Great insights. We look forward to more of your reporting. We're back in just a moment. It's been a month now, and the federal government still shut down. That political stalemate in D.C., putting families in poverty who rely on food stamps in quite a bind. Tomorrow, the federal government will no longer distribute SNAP benefits to help nearly 42 million Americans fill their grocery carts. That includes 650,000 people in Missouri, 1.9 million in Illinois. In Madison County alone, more than half the people there fall below the SNAP income threshold. Senator Josh Hawley wants to do something about it. He sponsored a bill to feed the poor, even while the government shut down, but the Republican majority leader won't allow that bill to the floor for a vote.
I think it shows you that for a lot of people in this building, this is sort of a game. It's like, oh, who's ahead, who's behind, as if it's a horse race. It's not a horse race. 42 million people are about to go without food, including a lot of children. This is Congress's fault. So when it comes to SNAP, the only solution here is we need to appropriate the money.
Senator Tammy Duckworth is on board. She backed the bill, saying, quote, by not calling a vote on Senator Hawley's bill to keep SNAP funded, Republican leadership is simply rubber stamping Trump's cruel decision to willingly allow millions of families to go hungry in an attempt to pressure us to let them jack up health insurance prices for those same Americans and millions more. In Missouri, Governor Mike Kehoe now says the state will speed up food assistance for vulnerable residents. But at first, Kehoe said, quote, we as a state don't have extra money laying around anywhere to cover that shortfall. Now he's directing $10.6 million to the Senior Services Growth and Development Fund to provide meals for seniors and $5 million more to food banks. The governor's office also says women and infant and children's benefits will remain available through November. Just 2 years ago, Missouri had $8 billion in cash reserves, and Kehoe's own budget director this year told lawmakers the state would still bring in at least $600 million more in taxes than we plan to spend. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker signed an executive order yesterday directing $20 million to bolster Illinois food pantries as these SNAP benefits are put on pause. Before that, he declared an agricultural export crisis in response to tariffs that impact local farmers.
Donald Trump called these tariffs patriotic. Well, there's nothing patriotic about destroying American farms. There's nothing patriotic about forcing our farmers to compete with one hand tied behind their backs while he subsidizes our foreign competitors.
Pritzker also signed an executive order Wednesday directing state agencies to expand domestic markets for farm products. The state will also increase funding for the Farm Family Resource Initiative, offering mental health support and free counseling for farm families. This week, Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt led a Senate subcommittee hearing focused on political violence. He condemned what he calls a rise in attacks driven by the political left. Schmitt cited incidents like the killing of conservative influencer Charlie Kirk and attempts on President Trump's life.
They know that their vision would never win at the ballot box, so they've chosen terrorism instead. They know their ideas could not win in the marketplace of ideas, so they shoot up the marketplace. We are faced with only two paths. Either we confront this political violence and end it, or it will end us.
Senator Dick Durbin pointed to political violence from the right, including the January 6th attack on the Capitol, also citing the Center for Strategic and International Studies findings since 2016. 112 people were killed in attacks coming from right-wing attackers, and 3 were killed in left-wing attacks. But Durbin wanted to emphasize one thing. When it comes to political violence, it shouldn't be just about pointing fingers.
Violence is not acceptable, whatever the source or origin. I do not believe that one party owns the right to say it's the other party's fault. It is the fault of both parties in differing degrees, and it's our fault if we try to whitewash that reality.
Up next, he's seeking a 6th term. St. Charles County Executive Steve Ellman, defending his record as former Missouri State Senator, runs against him. He was one of the first guests to appear on the record when we first launched this program. Former State Senator, current St. Charles County Executive Steve Ellman has been planning to retire for years. His departure, inviting a crop of ambitious Republicans to run for his job in a primary. And incumbent St. Charles County Executive Steve Ellman joins us now on the record, your second visit with us from many years ago, and good to have you back in studio. Help us understand your decision to run again. You hadn't wanted to do this until recently.
No, I made a decision after the last election. And it was a time when I didn't feel like I was getting much done on a regional basis or in Jeff City, and I figured, well, I'm going to finish this term and do the best I can and let somebody else try it. We got an entirely different political landscape right now. And I want to tell you that I've been doing this for a long time, and I have not felt this optimistic about our opportunities here in the St. Louis region to move not just St. Charles County, but the entire region forward. And a lot of that is because some of the new leadership in the city. Personally, for me, it's because of new leadership in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And in Jeff City, we've got a governor now who is from St. Louis and knows what we need, and I think is working hard to help us.
Well, let me ask this way, because there are some written reports that you were quite displeased with the idea of a Bill Eigel candidacy becoming your successor. Was that a factor in motivating your decision to run again?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen any written reports, and if they're written, I certainly didn't write them. You know, that is not my primary motivation. Now, I've had a lot of people encouraging me, and I can't speak for them. I hope they want me to run because they like me, but some of them may be that they dislike the alternative.
I think Dave Drebs in the Missouri Scout, to give him credit, had said that previously when there were 2 other candidates opposing Eigel, you had wanted to see the field consolidate. So there could be support behind just one anti-Eigel candidate.
That's correct.
That didn't happen, so now you jumped in.
Had people that supported me in the past were all over the place. They were really supporting maybe 3 different candidates, and yeah, I would have loved to have seen that get down to 1. But it's not necessarily personal against Bill Eigel. It's the difference between majority rule and plurality rule. Think about it. With the primary system we have now.
You're saying he appeals to a small base,
Well,
a loud
yeah,
minority, vocal minority.
And whoever wins the Republican primary in St. Charles County is probably going to win in November. Just like whoever wins the Democratic primary in St. Louis County is probably going to win in November. And a lot of times, if you've got four or five people in a race, somebody can get 25%, and then they're automatic in November. So you have a rarely small group of people. So
there's
it's
that old
not,
line, winning's easy, governing's harder.
Yes, exactly.
When you look at it, well, have you seen his response to you jumping back into the race?
Well, I heard about it. Yeah.
Former Senator Eigel, I think the most polite way to put it is he's raising questions about your focus, pointing to photos where he seems to say maybe there was
about when I checked my phone for a text from
you
my
weren't
wife.
sleeping on the job.
No, I was. We were in a meeting and my wife texted me and I just looked at it quickly to see what it was. Yeah, but see,
how do you address that sort of
just,
casual aspersion he
That's
casts?
just the kind of difference here. I'm not sure we're that different on philosophy, but it's a matter of style, okay? And you know, he used to be in the Senate, I used to be in the Senate. You're familiar with legislative bodies. To avoid things becoming personal, there are Senate rules that say you address your opponent not by his first or even his family name, but by where he's from, the senator from the 23rd. And there's a purpose for that. It's to make sure that we don't get on a personal basis, that we go ahead and debate.
I don't think those rules apply in a campaign season, though.
No, they don't. They don't.
This thing
and
looks like
there's
it's
no
going to get a little
rules.
spicy.
There's no rules that say you have to do that. But it's a little disappointing to me that on the very first day, the first thing he does is come up with some sort of name.
A promise you can guarantee that voters will get if they select your name on the ballot. What is it?
What is the campaign slogan? Well, how about a statesman, not a stuntman?
I think we'll leave it there. St. Charles County Executive, thanks for joining us.
That'll get some response.
It took decades of deals, demolitions, and determination, maybe even bringing a few voters back from the dead. We checked a record to find how the foundations of the Gateway Arch were built on ambition, controversy, and a little Midwestern ingenuity. 60 years ago this week, the skyline of St. Louis would change forever. We're celebrating the 60th birthday of our city's most recognizable landmark. The Gateway Arch opened to the public with presidential fanfare, putting us on the national map on October 28, 1965. So let's check the record. Politicians sold this big plan to the public, promising jobs. It was their idea to lift the region out of the slumps of the Great Depression. Decades before that 630-foot tall architectural wonder would awe the masses, planners were building their designs for demolition as far back as the 1930s. City leaders eventually had to wipe out some 37 city blocks along the riverfront to make way for some big future project, but they didn't know it would someday become a shrine to westward expansion. Authors documented the way that politicians shaped public sentiment long before those wrecking balls started to swing.
Back in the 30s, they were mainly selling it as a jobs deal. Thomas Jefferson would come up now and then, but for getting people to vote for it, this was going to be a big opportunity to clear the riverfront of derelict buildings, and that would increase the values of the property in the heart of downtown.
Sold as one thing, delivered as another, and as politicians are prone to do, paid for it with somebody else's money. The U.S. government agreed to pour millions of dollars into this idea as long as 2/3 of city residents would vote to approve it. That's when something else happened you could only describe as scandalous or miraculous.
Yes, there were some dead people who got up that morning and dutifully voted. So it was a very, it clearly was a crooked election. So it's not a stretch to say that the Arch is on a foundation of suspect ballot boxes.
All right, well, now they had the land, the money, the public support, but still no blueprints. That magnificent sloping skyscraper would come into the picture only after the city held a design contest in 1948, 1 year after KSDK opened its doors. And 15 years later, construction finally started. The Arch completed October 28, 1965. A marvel of modern design built on 37 blocks of demolition, a few dead voters, and one very tall tale. In the end, St. Louis got its monument. Washington got the bill, and the rest of us got one of the best backdrops in the nation for a selfie. 60 years on, the Arch still rises above it all as a reminder that even when the vote's crooked and the deal's a bit complicated, the American dream can still curve towards something magnificent. That's our show. Until next time, we're off the record.